In this video, we're going to discuss how to use the square root method to solve a quadratic equation. So, first thing I want to say about using the square root method is that it only works for a very particular set of quadratic equations. You'll recognize through doing practice problems, you'll recognize when it can be used and when it cannot be used, but the basic idea is that you want to be able to have some term squared on the left side of the equation, say, and then another term on the right hand side of the equation, and then you're able to take the square root of both sides and solve. So let's go ahead and do that with this one. So we're going to add 9 to both sides of the equation so that I can get x squared by itself. So I get x squared equals 9. Okay, so now the goal is I want to find what values of x would satisfy this equation, right? So if I were to take the square root of 9, what's the square root of 9? It's 3, right? But so we know, so let's go ahead and write that. X equal to 3 is a valid answer. Okay, so actually, if I were to break that down a little differently. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to say, okay, so basically I'm taking the square root of x squared, which is just x, right? And then the square root of 9, which is 3. Okay, so that's one answer. But another possible answer is that x is negative 3, or the negative version of the square root, right? Then I would write that x equals negative 3, because negative 3 is also, or negative 3 squared is also positive 9. So x then takes the values, you might see this written as plus or minus 3. Okay, so that would be your solution. X is plus or minus 3. You would write your solution set as negative 3, comma 3. Okay, and that would be your solution. So moving on to another example. In this example, we have a term that is squared on the left-hand side, and so that way we can use the square root method and break this down. So we're going to say x minus 9. So if I were to take the square root of x minus 9 squared, I would just be left with x minus 9. So this is going to equal plus or minus the square root of 10. Okay, so basically I could break that down into two different equations. I would have x minus 9 equals the positive version of, so just square root of 10, and then x minus 9 is the negative version, negative square root of 10. Now negative square root of 10, square root of 10, this can't be simplified, we just leave it as the square root. Okay, and now the goal is to solve for x, so I'm going to add 9 to both sides of the equation. So I would get x equals the square root of 10 plus 9. If I were to add 9 to both sides over here, x equals the negative square root of 10 plus 9. Okay, so if I were to write this in set-based notation, I would start with the negative one, because you always start with the smaller of the two, and then square root of 10 plus 9. And this would be your solution set.